My name is Michael Kamerman, and I run the brokerage division of a fintech that has diversified services across various different segments and geographies. My story is very international. So I started my career in the US. I'm American, in the middle of the US in Kansas City, Missouri, and then I moved to Texas to start my kind of fintech career 20 years ago. From there, I kind of worked my way up the corporate ladder in the trading and online investing industry. That took me to then move from the middle of the US over to New York and then San Francisco and then Jerusalem. I spent time in Shenzhen and then London, and then after London I came to Marbella. All that time I was just building different offices, different teams, working at different companies, and now I'm here in Marbella. Marbella became an option only because my previous employer asked that I move here. I didn't really know much about Marbella. I remember Googling it and the images were loading slowly and it was just blue, cyan blue, blue, green, blue as it was loading, and I figured that's probably a good start. When you're in London for 6 years, coming to a place like Marbella is not a difficult sell. So my previous employer is a company named Skilling. They're a high growth online brokerage. They're significant operations here in Marbella. They said if you want to run that company, you need to come down and be close to the ownership, which I thought was a great idea. And so that took us down here, and it has actually opened a lot of doors being in this area. From an outsider's perspective, it felt like a small kind of provincial town, but it definitely punches above its weight in terms of its networking abilities. There's a lot of like-minded people, and there's a lot of expats. And when you have a lot of expats, you have people that know the need for networking, because that becomes your de facto family. And so it really kind of supercharged my ability to kind of grow that business, because I met a lot of other people who were working just as hard as I was. I heard about the pool through one of our investors who was also an investor in the pool. And then I heard about it through you. My previous company that took me here to Marbella, we had worked in an office, a typical office, for as typical as it can get here in Marbella. And in Marbella, the working scene, there's not like an international business center. There's not a financial district. And we had heard people say things like you could rent a house and there'd be a pool, and that just wasn't conducive to the type of business I was trying to run, or that I was even allowed to run. And so we knew that we needed a different solution, because we were, kind of just coming out of COVID times to flex up or flex down, and the pool was an ideal solution for us. And we found, and obviously the surroundings are very nice, the building is very nice, it's in the center of town. And so that it was kind of a no-brainer, and we actually didn't even shop around, because as soon as we came in, we knew it would be a good home for our then around 20-person staff. So as someone that has traveled extensively, but perhaps more relevantly, that has worked outside my home country extensively, Marbella, and maybe just moreover Spain, one of the bigger benefits that it provides is that it forces you to close your laptop. I grew up in the northern part of the US, where it's dark a lot. And I think a lot of the people I've met here are kind of from a similar background, in terms of where what time of the day the sun sets. And so when you're surrounded by sunlight, literal sunlight, it reminds you that one of the best ways to naturally de-stress is to close your laptop and get out. And when the sun goes down at 9:45 p.m. at night, it's pretty hard to say you don't have time to do so. So with that, one of the natural advantages you have here is not just the weather, but it's just the ability to get outside, and you're kind of constantly reminded by that, especially in this building. It's basically have a glass ceiling, so you're going to get plenty of light. So that's one of the natural advantages that we have here. Prior to our journey here in the pool, we had kind of forced people to come to the office 2-3 times a week. And for the individuals we have here in Marbella, they're not in sales or marketing. There's no justification for them to actually sit next to each other to feel this level of camaraderie or spirit. And so it's enabled them to come as little or as much as they'd like, which has been big for them. And it's actually surprised me how much they have wanted to come in. And I think it's also because of the better surroundings than we had in our previous office. I found that 3-4 times a week I was the only one there in the office, which was lonely. And also, I was running the company, but I'm just also a human. I benefit from other interactions with people. And so for me, it's meant I've been able to kind of, to some extent, bounce ideas from people, but also just learn and meet new other people that have helped me kind of build my network here that I actually have done some local business with, which has been beneficial. If you're going to move to Marbella, the advice I would provide is, number one, to not stress about the school situation for your children. There are 3, 4, 5 very high-end private schools that are great value for money. And I know for those that are considering moving to Marbella, many times they're in that kind of child rearing stage of their life. And that, believe it or not, is usually one of the driving factors of whether or not we can move, is are there any good schools? Marbella is not Madrid, it's not Barcelona. There are concerns that this is going to be a tier 2 or tier 3 city, which may mean tier 2 or 3 education. That's not the case. You've got amazing teachers and schools here that comparatively, when we set these children up against other people we know that are in other private schools or in other public schools, in and out of our network, we notice that our children are at an advantage. So my advice is to not stress about that. My advice also for someone moving to Marbella is to outsource a lot of the local kind of functionary work. Getting things done requires a cultural, nuanced understanding of Spain and Spaniards. And especially if you don't speak the language, it would be ideal to outsource that work. And there's a lot of people that can help you. It's not expensive, it's not difficult, but I would definitely outsource that work. And then the final advice, and this is super obvious, but it's to go out of your way and try to speak the language and make mistakes and look dumb. That's part of the process of living in a foreign culture. And what I've found is everyone here pretty much does speak a pretty good level of English, but just by showing that you care, you open that door and you lower defenses and people let you right in. So that would be another professional advice I would suggest.